everyone. Good evening and welcome to the Slay to Success show. My name, as all of you know, is Rochelle Hemingway, and I am the CEO and founder of Slay to Success, which empowers women working in leadership roles and women transitioning after serving 20 or more years in a career to step into their next role, goal, aspiration, or dream with 10x confidence without sacrificing health, relationships, opportunities, or happiness. I offer courses, workshops, programs, women empowerment events. I am a professional keynote speaker, author of the book titled Slay to Success, mentor to mostly women, and a 30-year United States Air Force veteran. So before we get started, if you are coming into this space, making sure that you put your comments in here, y'all. All right. We want to know who you are, who's listening in. Tell us your name and where you're streaming in from into the comments. And as the comments are being pulled up, I will give you shout outs in here. You don't want to miss this episode. So if you are here and you're like, okay, well, what do I do with the next 60 minutes? I'm going to need you to go grab a beverage of your choice, whatever that is. I'm not going to be looking, whatever that is, and settle down so that way you can hear some of the things that we're going to be talking about in this conversation. Now, the purpose of this talk show is to highlight women and men who are living a life of service on their own terms and using the slave philosophies to positively impact the world. Now, everyone should know by now what the word slay means, but if you don't, the word means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to dream and work hard until you own it, to be on point, and to impress greatly. It's also an acronym. I don't know anyone who does not like acronyms. I do. S stands for stay ready, be ready. L for lead out loud. A, a sense of community, a sense of family. And Y is for you are built to last. So let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping here, y'all. If you are not subscribed to my email listing, please, 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 if you are a woman transitioning or have transitioned from a 20 plus year career or in a leadership role, you're actively working, leading, serving in a leadership role, scan the QR code and you're going to see two links. One link is there for women in leadership roles. The other link is for women transitioning. Whichever applies or resonates with you, click on, and I will be sending you tips, advice, all the encouragement, inspiration that you are going to need as you step into your journey. So, Jay, welcome to the show, my queen. Welcome, welcome. Glad that you're here live with us tonight. Tell us where you are streaming in from so that way we can also give you a shout out. Okay, so for everyone that's listening in, please, listening, sharing, and subscribing are the ings that we need to have for tonight. Listening, sharing, and subscribing. And go to my website for more information. All right, so that was the housekeeping that we needed to get done at the very beginning. So I'm super excited for this Slay-mazing, okay, and that's what the word is, Slay-mazing conversation we're going to have on tonight's show, okay? We're going to have this big old conversation, and this is my retired Air Force brother in arms, my mentor, my friend, my former supervisor. His name is Dave Nordel, and he's in the building, y'all. Okay, so let me just share with you a little bit about Dave before we go on. He is a retired United States Air Force Command Chief. Okay, you know how we do, y'all. The command chiefs, we kind of gravitate, retirees, we know each other, so we reach out to one another. He has over 30 years of service. He holds a bachelor's degree in registered nursing, specializing in emergency medicine, and a master's degree in disaster and emergency management. He is a Bronze Star Combat Decorated Medic and the recipient of the Legion of Merit, which is our nation's sixth highest military decoration. Now, he is a son of a third-generation Portuguese family, and he was raised in a dairy farming environment in California. And he joined the Air Force at the age of 19. And his last role was the senior enlisted advisor for all nuclear missile forces in the United States Air Force. Now, he's in Billings, Montana. I was stationed in Montana for 2.5 years. I look, there ain't no shade, but I will never go back to Montana to live. That's another story. That's another episode. But he is the author of not one, not two, but three international best-selling books. Giving Back Life and Leadership from the Farm to the Combat Zone and Beyond. When the Cows Lie Down, which I have right here. Why people quit you. Okay. This right here is all the weight in gold, y'all. We're going to be talking about this tonight specifically. All right. And he's also the founder and owner of Max Fab Consulting, providing keynote leadership, organizational growth, and strategic guidance. And he's actively involved in using his journey with PTSD and moral injury to help transitioning veterans and other victims of trauma deal with the condition in a healthy manner. And he's an active mentor and speaks to young leaders to aid their development and future successes. He continues to give back the gifts he has collected along the way. So put your hands together, okay, for my mentor, my good friend, Dave Nordel.
Hey! Do you know what the best thing about that intro is?
What's that?
You could have just taken Dave out and put in Rochelle, because it's almost the same, which is great. That is a big deal to me.
We're going to talk about all that, because one of the things that I learned from you, because we were stationed in Japan, and y'all, he was my supervisor, and a little supervisor that kind of just gets it done and make sure that you get it done. Like, accountability is a thing. All right. And so for me, as a young, impressionable NCO, non-commissioned officer, for those that are listening in and not sure with the terminology, you think that you know it all. You think that you've grown, and you're like, okay, I know. But when I was under your tutelage, and I'll tell you, when I would go out on those deployments, I would just have you in my head. Because we were trained up. I was confident. I was assured that I can get whatever was going to happen out in the field. I can handle it. And it was like, from then on, I kind of walked in your steps without even realizing it. Like our journey all the way up to command chief.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both medics. I mean, it was mind blowing to me. Like, when I got to be a command chief, I was like, oh my gosh, like, he was a command chief too. Like, what is happening? Right. So you just never know who you're affected by.
Well, that was pure torture for you to have to walk in my footsteps, because it got a little bit lonely, didn't it? We'll talk a little bit about that. And you kind of write the little piece that you write about me in the book. I have to laugh, because it's very flattering in some ways, and it's very real in others, because not everybody was picking up what then Master Sergeant Dave Nordel was putting down, right?
Oh no.
It was not a thing, but it was a thing. And I will tell you, Rochelle, and as we carry on through our journey, especially the stuff that you described, the work that we're in, because it's similar, it's the same passion-driven thing. It's still service, and it's all about soft landings for people that are getting ready to make a major shift in their life. The hard side is the lonely side, and I write that in the book.
Yeah.
And that's what, the day that you came into the emergency room and started working, you were always a little bit special. And it was just because of effort. It was because if you didn't know, you wanted to know. If it was hard, you wanted to do it. So there's a blessing in there when you have people like that you can shape and mold. Mm-hmm. But if you look at what we're doing today, right, and where we were then, it is the same thing. Because you and I, we just talked about this on the pre-show when you and I were talking. Yeah. You and I, as we've transitioned, we did not decide to get to find the easy button.
Nope.
This is work. and so it just, I actually, you call me your mentor, but I think we both mentored each other all the way through. Even when you were wanting to be a first sergeant, and you were working towards, your time through your senior enlisted times, emails back and forth and those type of things. You were grinding and wanting and doing those kind of things, but I was learning from you the same way. And this is what that's about, because what you're doing is you're bringing people together and you're getting into a room. And
Yeah.
I think people are looking at you and they're going, "Man, Slay Queen's got it going on."
Yeah.
And I want to slay like she is.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you and I will talk. We don't talk every day, but you and I will talk, and you'll go, "Man, I was in this room and I learned this and this and this." And so your audience, your people that are constant, constantly around you,
Hmm.
I hope that they realize that they're shaping you too, because we continue to grow
Oh,
that way.
yeah. I
And
am like always wanting to invest in myself now, like more than
mm,
I ever had even a sense of feeling to do that when I was still on active duty. Like right now, I think it's not only age, okay? I think age plays a part in it, right? But we get to have like another opportunity to serve in a different
right,
way.
right,
We're serving outside of the uniform,
right.
and knowing that we're giving our best. We're
Hmm.
showing up every single day, and we're understanding that somebody's waiting for us. And I think that is the pure beauty of what we're doing right now.
Right. But it's still the hard work.
It's still hard.
But that's, everything, you talk about age, so you have more experience and you have more things to look back on. And history is great to reflect on, because it teaches us maybe not what to do or maybe what to repeat. But it also, when you look at your own history and you look at back where you came from. So if you look at back when we wrote our first books and you
Yeah.
look at now, we got a lot done, right?
We did.
But
Yeah.
we just talked about feeling like we haven't got enough done. So,
We
that's alive, to your audience,
yeah.
That's the thing, is that the only person that can keep you from growing is you.
Yeah.
So why don't you keep growing? I mean, all the way till your very last day. And oh, by the way, the fertilizer are the people that we serve.
Yeah.
So the more
Yes.
people that you serve, the more fertilizer you have, the more you grow.
Yeah.
And,
I
and
mean, that's how it is, and I think that the more that we get, again, a chance or an opportunity to share with other people about our journey and what we've been going through, the more they'll
yeah,
understand that they too have a journey and they have a story to share, and they should do that.
right.
So I want to talk a little bit about your days as a young Dave Nordell,
Ooh.
like on the farm. So
Oh yeah,
you worked on the I know you worked on the dairy
yeah,
farms.
hard
And
work.
how does that translate into, like, let's go to present day.
Sure,
So what lessons did you learn while you were on a dairy farm that are serving you well in your life today?
sure. I mean, there's some cliche stuff in there, and I always tell people that I think everything that is out there in front of you in life is on a farm. You deal with life, you deal with death, you deal with adversity, you deal with Mother Nature, you deal with deadlines, you deal with finances, you deal with relationships, you deal with all of that. I mean, all these things that life brings to bear, and it prepares you quite well, because a lot of times on the farm you got to work through things on your own.
Yeah.
There's just not. I mean, you don't have 10,000 resources, and I certainly didn't have a cell phone back in those days. And I had a lot of people that I could look at for work ethic and those type of things. I always joke that I told my training instructor picked on me about being a farm boy, and I told him I went in the military so I could sleep in. He didn't appreciate that, but I thought it was pretty funny. But when you're on a dairy farm, you actually get up before we ever got woke up in basic training. So
Yeah.
so that's a win. But I'd say the biggest thing about farm life that's transitioned into life is that you're responsible for something else every day that you get up. And I think
Mm.
that is a piece of leadership that was easier for me. And when I became my first command chief job at Fairchild, one of the first things that I did was every tech sergeant that made master sergeant, I scheduled a 15-minute appointment with them
Yeah.
to talk to them about the fact that the days of the tech sergeant temper tantrum are over with, and how people viewed master sergeants. But if you remember the transition when you got out of Airman Leadership School, right? And they
Yeah.
said, now you can supervise people.
Yeah.
For me, that was very natural to have people and understand that when I woke up in the morning and when I went to bed, I couldn't be thinking about myself. I had to make sure that the people were squared away all day, and I had to make sure they were squared away when I went to bed. Then I would take care of that piece. So farm life teaches you that, because no matter how much you want to lay down, relax, take your shoes off, put your feet up, everything's got to be squared away. The animals have to be squared away. The stuff for the next day has to be squared away. All of those responsibilities have nothing to do with you, and so it makes you pretty unselfish pretty quick. So
Yeah. I totally could see that for sure. Like you telling the TI, like, oh, I want to sleep in. Because getting up at 4, I'm sure you were getting up before the crack of dawn to go out there and take care of animals, but being responsible, right? And so Leslie here, she's tuning in from 35,000 feet up in the air. And I know, like, she is like the madame. We call her the madame, and she is just
I
on
love
it.
it.
She supports us 100% on the things that we do, and it's such a pleasure for her to be here. But she says being responsible for something else.
Yeah.
Like some people
Oh, huge.
some people don't understand that concept, and it's very hard for them to see that. Yeah, when you're in a leadership role, like that's what you're doing, right? So
Well, and I think people have trouble transitioning to this responsibility aspect that Leslie describes,
yeah,
because it's scary, Rochelle.
yeah,
It's scary because now it's alive. It's a human being, and you're responsible for that human being. And oh, by the way, when you're responsible for human beings, your little agenda that you wake up in the morning and you go, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be over here and I'm going to do that. It takes
hmm
one human that you're responsible for to walk into your office, bring on your telephone, and say, this is going on. And all of that stops
yeah.
if you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right.
And that's a heavy lift. I mean, when you're out there slaying, right? You're really
Yeah,
you're really kind of taking people under your wing, right? And
it
you're and
is.
you're being responsible for them.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I chose the word is because I wanted it to really be meaningful in a way where not only us as older, kind of wiser ones are, but the younger ones, it's a bridge. Like these are fundamental principles. These are universal philosophies that you could use and apply to your life at any point. And so I think when I started, to get into more leadership roles, I started to really take it seriously. Like you said, these are human beings that you're responsible for. It's no longer about you per se. Yeah, you mean you get all that when you're growing and nurturing, and by succession, you get that. But what is it like when you are having, conversations with individuals within your team and really having the impact and the influence for them to go out and do things that they didn't even think they could ever really do? Like
Right?
that for me is mind blowing for me.
When's when's the last time that you were at a leadership course when they were talking to you about you need to be courageous and you need to have good communication skills and you need to listen and you need to be empathetic? All of those things are really cool. But how come nobody ever says, because if you don't do those things, the human that you're responsible for will shut off? And when
Mm,
they and then when they shut off, you're not a leader anymore.
mm.
Nobody ever draws that corollary, and it drives me crazy because first of all, leadership is about people. People confuse leadership and management,
Yep.
and quite often when you're put into your first leadership position, it feels good. You call your mom, you call your wife, call your husband. You go, I'm the new manager. I'm the new director. And if they call me, you know what I say?
What's that?
How do you feel about that? And most people go, it's great. It's a promotion. I said, it should scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah,
You
really.
you should be absolutely petrified. They go, what do you mean? And I said, who are you responsible for? What are their names? What's their physical health? What's their family condition? What do they make an hour? How many kids do they have? What crises are going on in their lives? And oh by the way, are they going to have balance? Are they going to, are you going to be able to balance, and have balance in their life? And are they the right people? And who are you going
Yeah.
to have to let go? And who are you going to have to hire?
It's a lot. I mean, it's
It's
a
a big
lot.
deal.
And you're right. If you're not scared when you're sitting in those leadership roles, then you might want to rethink about like where you're at in your leadership journey? Because
You know, Colin Powell said, if you read his book, it's still my favorite leadership
oh
book, and
yeah, yeah,
it's older. If you
it's
read
mine.
Colin Powell's book, he says in there, if the only thing that people can say about you as a leader is that you're a nice guy or a nice gal, then you're an ineffective leader.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes back to working for Master Sergeant Dave Nordel in the emergency room. And you caught it, right? Because no,
But I'll tell you
I
this.
was not
I
universally
I
loved.
wanna say this here because I have probably said this to you a couple of times, but you changed the trajectory of my life. That day I called you and said, "Hey, I need you to come and pick me up from my room." Because y'all was living on base. There was a whole
Yeah.
situation, and I was not in a good space. And I called, Dave, and I said, Sergeant Nordell, like, can you come pick me up? And you were right there, and you made some calls, and the situation was handled like right away. And from that point, like, I took notice of everything that was happening, and that it was the way that I started handling situations that came up, not maybe similar to that, but things that needed urgency,
Mm-hmm.
like things
Mm-hmm.
that needed to be squared away, because you knew if I had that thing hovering over me for a minute, that would be the only thing I'd be thinking about, and the last thing I'll be thinking about is taking care of a patient coming through the emergency room. So it was just like, whew, thank you,
Well,
Jesus.
and but it was attached to a human, Rochelle.
Yeah, exactly.
You were not only were you my human, but you were a human.
Hmm.
And what was going on with you was not it was threatening. It was unsafe. You were
Yep.
unsafe.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, it was my responsibility to get you safe for all the reasons that you described. But I didn't do that because I wanted to be Clark Kent, do a quick change in the phone booth and then write myself up for a medal.
Yeah.
I did it because as a leader, you have to be a human being. You cannot lose that touch. And sometimes we start to turn off all of the things that make us who we are that are special
Yeah.
because and we tell ourselves, well, I'm in a leadership role. I write in my book about my time in my last tour in Iraq
Yeah.
about not crying. Worst mistake I ever made was standing over those flag draped body bags and not crying, thinking that my leadership required me to not cry. Damaged me for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
And I think that I would have, and I was pretty in tune with my people, very much so. But I think I would have been even closer to my people had I shown that emotion.
Yeah.
So leaders have to be human, and that's most people can't get their head around that. They want distance, and I don't want to show them I'm weak, or I got to be something that I'm not. Just
Well,
be
because
you.
you want to be tough. You want to have that, like, that layer of toughness. Like, you can handle everything, and then you stuff down the emotions that come with it. You're just like, nope, those can't come up. And I'll tell you, my last role, I don't know how many times that I was crying my eyes out in front of all kinds of people because of some of the things that were happening that I could not wrap my head around. But I was like, I know these people are hurting. I'm hurting. We're going to hurt together, and we're going to start on this healing journey together.
Mm,
It is all about this brother, sister in arms, and
yeah.
how do you create these environments,
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we can talk all about that in the leadership role in a human being, but
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your transition, okay,
Sure.
from the
Oof.
military. So you retired in 2014.
Yeah.
And so tell us briefly about your transition, and kind of get us sped up to what you're doing today.
So you want okay? Yeah, I'll take it to that. So you want to hear everything I screwed up, so people won't screw it up
Yeah,
when they
yeah.
transition. Yeah.
Why
Okay.
not?
Right.
Why not?
I no. I listen. The other thing about leadership is, if you really want your people to pay attention, talk about failure. Don't tell people about when you hit a home run. Talk about the 7 strikeouts before that. So because
Yeah.
people lean in. When I'm very one of the things I'm going to use. It's going to sound very harsh and very self-deprecating, but it's just how I roll. I'm extremely embarrassed of the advice that I gave young people when they were transitioning out of the Air Force, especially in my command tours as a command chief. Because Airman Snuffy, right? We say Airman Snuffy. Airman Snuffy or Sergeant Snuffy would come up and say, Chief, I'm getting out. What kind of advice do you have? Spend some money on some good clothes, sit up straight at your interview, talk good about yourself, and change that resume. Go get them, sport. If I could have done this and gone back to that, I would have sat them down and I would have said things. This is heavy stuff. I would have said things like, when we talked about this, take every second off that you have when you're out. If you've got 5 months of terminal leave, you take it off. Number two is, I think everybody transitioning from being institutionalized in the United States military should have at least one, if not two, sessions with a professional counselor.
Yes.
Just sit down and have you don't know what you don't know until you sit down in the chair and you actually have a conversation and stuff starts coming out of your mouth. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
This is the work that we're doing, is trying to bridge this, so this is an easier landing. Number three would be, take your time when you do decide to seek employment or do something. You pick. Don't jam your square self into some round hole for expediency, the stuff we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're institutionalized in the Department of Defense, having white space is looked at as you're not being productive, you're lazy, all of those type of things. And so we don't even know how to relax.
Mm-mm.
We're given this magnificent transmission with this high gear in basic training. We shift into the high gear and we're not allowed to shift out of it until we're civilians. You might get to downshift one gear when you're on leave or your PCS, when you're on leave or moving from station to station. You might get to do that. But otherwise, we're stuck in this gear. Well, when you get out, they don't take that transmission out.
Nope.
And it's not healthy. So here I am, leaving 20th Air Force, the chief for all the missile forces in the United States. And I get out, and instead of taking my 4.5 months of terminal leave, I got a job in a month. I decided to go work for a guy that I knew up here in Montana and manage restaurants, 13 Subway sandwich shops scattered around Montana. How hard can that be, right? It was horrible. The friend that I had wasn't the boss that I needed. In fact, he was a bad boss. He was a narcissist, and he was a bad boss. And the people that are employed at Subway are not airmen. Most of their rap sheets are longer than their resumes, and that's the truth. And so after 13 months, I was absolutely miserable. And I thought, you know what? I've got a pension. I'm going to try this retirement thing. So I do the retirement thing, and then within about 6 to 8 months, what happens? Depression. I stop taking care of myself physically. I start to lose my sense of purpose, and I'm wandering around. And one morning at 10 o'clock, I turn the television on, and I go to the fridge, and I grab a beer, and I open the beer, and I sit down. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, time out. I need to go find a job.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've learned. Now find the job that fits you. And so they're in town. The city needed an emergency manager. And so I applied for that job, and I had two opportunities running simultaneously. And I applied for that job. It was way, way underpaid job. In fact, it was garbage man wages. I mean, the job was actually synonymous with the trash collectors, the sanitation workers. And the responsibilities were huge, to include carrying around a radio and 2 phones. Sound familiar? I mean, all of this stuff. But my saving grace in that job was my boss was the fire chief, and my day started in the fire department, did fire station 1 every day. And that's as close as it got to having that camaraderie and the team. And I had a shirt that said the fire department stuff on it, and all of those kind of things. And I had a good boss there who was actually prior military. So all of those things kind of married up, but I still wasn't in the same spot. Now I want to tell you, at this point in time, I didn't realize I had some things going on that I needed help with. So I still had my head down. I was in denial. The depression, the PTSD was always there. The triggers that came, I didn't have a full understanding of moral injury and what that was, but I did know that I had relived a lot of times where I regretted, decisions I had to make or decisions that I was part of as a command team that,
Yep.
that really flew in the face of my ethics and morality and all of my foundation and what I believe. But you do it because of doctrine and direct orders, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that. And I got offered a job here in Billings that was twice the pay and was commensurate with where I was at. And it was the primo job. It was doing disaster management for a healthcare system, emergency room, nursing, disaster management, all that stuff that you talked about. All of that works congruently, and it's a perfect job. And I get in the institution, and it doesn't work right. It's my mind is looking at stuff. Everything is stupid. Everybody's dumb. Everybody's late. Everybody's lazy. And then we hit COVID, and the two most qualified people in the whole system to handle COVID, which was the infectious disease doc and myself, we were marginalized and kind of pushed out of the room in the decision making process because what we had to do was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit.
Mm.
And there's a little. This is kind of all happening at the same time. And then one day I was sitting almost right exactly where I'm sitting now. I had just sent my youngest son off to Washington, D.C. for his dream job, working for our U.S. Senator in Montana. And I got up to walk into the living room, and Rochelle, our old ER days, I thought I was dead. My heart rate went straight up. I felt like my head was going to fly off. Couldn't breathe. All my fingernails turned blue. I looked down, and I got peripheral cyanosis, and I thought, in my mind, I thought, well, I'm dying. And I told, luckily I'm married to a nurse. I told Pat, I said, let's go to the hospital. She goes, call an ambulance. I said, no, it's a waste of time. So I threw a big clot out of my leg from my groin to my ankle, threw a clot out of my leg into both lungs, should have died, didn't die, had a chance to sit there. And that was almost 2,000 days ago that I had my last drink. And that was my moment when everything went bang. And I thought you need help. And I'm going to redefine help here, because when people say help, they think that you're down and out and you're incapable of doing anything when you need help. That wasn't the case. I had a challenge. I had a math problem in front of me that required 3 or 4 people, a life team, to work on. Moral injury, PTSD, unhealthy use of alcohol, getting back on an exercise regime, all these things. And you talk about all these things.
Yep.
And as soon as I really realized that I needed a life team, that I needed to straighten some things up, this got clear. This started to clear up. It's been a huge renaissance. I call it self-leadership.
Oh no. You're gonna hit a button here that we might not be able to get off of, but self-leadership. Let's go.
Yeah, because what you tell yourself you believe, what you accept from yourself becomes your new reality. And nobody can do certain things except for you. Everybody can love on you. Everybody can give you an extra $5. But if you use the $5 for the wrong thing, or you keep telling yourself the wrong things, it's going to lead you down a rabbit hole. And I'll tell you, Rochelle, I've been up against it. I've been the guy. I've almost been one of the 44 a day that takes their lives. I've been right there. And when I look back on that, and I will tell you that I still have fleeting thoughts of that, and that a lot of that has to go with the trauma. But I still have fleeting thoughts of that. But I have a life team now. And you know what I had to do? You know what the number one thing about building a life team was? It wasn't about finding people. It was about firing people. It was about firing people off of the team that I had.
Wait a minute, y'all. Wait a minute. Okay, because if y'all ain't picking up what Dave is laying down, I don't know what's going on in here, but you just said something about, okay, first of all, we talking self-leadership and firing folks. Okay, so you gotta go.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about easy ones. I'm talking about cousins and uncles. And I just talked to somebody the other day that I mentored, and she finally fired her mom. She goes, I fired my mom. And I said, yes, your mom had to go for you to be healthy. I saw a little saying the other day that said, Your family will always be your family, but that doesn't give them a direct pass to your inner circle. And that's why in the first book, the first couple of chapters are about friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Some people have earned the right to be fired. It's not being mean. It's about respecting yourself first,
Yeah.
leading yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And and the reason why I get all like kind of excited about that a little bit, but at the same time, like being really serious, because for us, and I'll just speak for us that have been in these environments
Mm.
where we've been away from family and friends for like 30 plus years, and they don't know all the ins and outs. They get to hear the little bits and pieces of what we've been through, but they don't know until our chapter 30, right? When we're on the stage,
Right.
we're getting the medal, we're getting, the accolades and stuff like that,
Mm.
but really not understanding how we've grown, we've matured, we've had experiences. Like, we're not better. We just grew up in that environment where we got to appreciate different perspective, different
Mm.
mindsets, different differences. And when people are still conformed to what they always know and believe,
Mm.
when you step in and say, well, wait a minute, I've got an opinion about that, and I have a different view, they just don't get it. And then we allow them to keep sucking out, all the things that we've always, kind of like we've matured and we got to know a little bit more about ourselves. That's
Mm.
the thing about it as well. So when you're talking about firing people, it's like, I love you. I love you from a distance, but sometimes where I'm going, you can't go to. I mean, that's just where we're at
Right.
right now,
Right.
right?
That's right. Well, one of the magical things is I always tell, I did a talk, a DEI talk for a bunch of people in Detroit. They were DOD people, actually, civilians. Some were former prior military, but it was all civilian contractors, but DOD folks. And I said, my DEI journey started in a barracks in San Antonio, Texas in 1984.
Yeah.
And, one of my keynote speeches is the 25-yard gap. And I use that as an example because a military barracks is about 25 yards long. And in that 25, that's the scariest 25 yards in your life. And I was a student leader, I was a squad leader. That's the scariest 25 yards in your life. Because if you don't walk from bed 1 to bed 12 to find out what's going on with Airman Bradley, who that is the guy's name. The guy, I was in bed 1 and the guy in bed 12 was Airman Bradley. And Airman Bradley did not grow up on a farm. He grew up in inner city Philadelphia, and I didn't know anything about anything. If I'd have made assumptions about Airman Bradley and not walked that 25 yards, I
Yep.
wouldn't have grown. There's no growth in that. So we got to put ourselves in those unknown spaces. If you don't know what you don't know, you better darn well go find out, because that's the beginning of self-leadership.
Yeah. Okay. So you just talked a little bit about, not making assumptions and so forth. So in your
Sure.
book, look, I was doing a whole lot of highlighting because, leadership is my jam, y'all. Everybody knows I could spend hours talking about it. But one of the topics that you talk about is throwing rocks.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And so,
Don't be throwing
tell
rocks.
us a little bit about this throwing rocks concept.
Usually when we're in an uncomfortable space ourselves, where our self-confidence is lacking, and it may be because we've conducted ourselves in a way that we don't really approve of how we've conducted ourselves. The easiest way to do that, and part of it's called gaslighting, but the easiest way to do that is to throw a rock. Because if you throw a rock hard enough, right, it's distracting, one, and two, you're on the attack. And when you're on the attack, then nobody else can do the kind of things that you do. But you got to be pretty careful. There's the Lord Jesus about the only person that should be throwing rocks. The rest of us, we got our own issues, so don't be throwing rocks. Everybody else got rocks too. And so have enough respect for yourself just to bow out.
Yeah.
And there, other people's pain or putting people down or throwing the figurative rocks at people is not an elixir for the challenges in life.
Mm.
So
Mm-mm.
you need to, because we do that a lot. You know, there's
Mm.
one of my new friends, she's an author. She wrote a book called We've All Done It, and it's about toxic leadership in an environment. And what she says is, when you're reading the book, you want to read the book, but you're going to be guilty of half the stuff I'm writing in the book because I was guilty of it.
Yep.
Well, you toxicity is exactly the reason it's called toxic is because it does something that either changes your molecules or kills you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's toxic. It's bad for you. Rock throwing is not only bad for you, but it's bad for humanity.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a good human, the first thing you need to do is put down the rock. There's nothing productive about it.
Yeah. And I like when you put it in there that, sometimes, that rock that you throw at that one person, they pick it back up and they throw it right back at you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
sometimes we want to go, oh, look what's wrong with you. All right. And then we try to size folks up and then we put them in a bad way and it's in front of everybody. And we get this ego dopamine hit that, guess what I did? I called him out because his name tag was off a little bit. And
Uh,
then they go, well, look at your gig line
That's
or look
I.
at your
Yeah, that's
you know
if you ever correct anybody in the military, it's hugely obvious. But in life,
yeah.
if you ever correct anybody, they don't say thank you. They
No.
look at your stuff.
Yeah.
They look at you. Go tell your neighbor they need to mow your lawn. They're gonna run right to the hedge and they're gonna look over the hedge to make sure that your stuff's
They're
squared
gonna run
away.
a cookie. So cookies on the board of the records for HOA. So yeah, if you go and you tell the next person over there that your lawn is crazy, they're gonna find something. It's just like one of those things. So,
Yeah,
she says reciprocity is real. It is a real
yeah.
thing.
I love Leslie put up there. Get rid of dead ass weight in your life. Find
Yeah, she
people.
is all about it because
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I mean, we just got to be real with ourselves and our feelings and our values and our, ethics that when we know for sure and we're going
Mhm.
to stand firm in it, like no one should be stepping outside, stepping in those boundaries that we've created. I think it's when we try we try so hard. Right? We
When
try
you
so hard.
when you stop throwing figurative rocks, you know what happens?
Yeah.
You start listening to learn, and you start learning to listen.
Yeah.
Because
That's good.
the initial reaction is to throw the rock. If
Mhm.
you just take a deep breath and go, I want to throw this rock. Let me find out why I want to throw this rock.
Mhm.
And you are gonna grow. And it might hurt. It might hurt really bad, but you are gonna grow.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you learn to listen, as soon as you learn to listen, I'll tell you, Rochelle, I was given some magical gifts early in my military career from people that didn't look like me, didn't come from where I came from, that had enough grace and empathy to understand that Dave Nordel that they were talking to was inherently a good human that
Mhm.
needed to grow.
Mhm.
And they taught me how to close those 25 yards really doggone quick. And I think what happens is that people, when they're out there, don't want to do that work for themselves because we want to know what the end game is. And that kind of work on yourself, you don't know what the end game is. There is no, if I put 10 cents in this machine, a gumball drops out, that's being a sheeple, right? That's just when you know the outcome and it's going to be what you desire, you will repeat that over and over and over again. But when you got to do something and you don't know the outcome, but you're wading into that, that's your growth space, and people just don't want to get there. It's fear and pain. Fear and pain drives us to not do the things we need to do.
Yeah. I agree. And I I still go back to the self-leadership. Like
It's
there's a lot of times we don't want to lead ourselves because it's just a hard thing to do. We don't want to
right.
hold ourselves accountable. We don't want to be responsible for a lot of things. Or if we do want to be responsible for it, we don't want to know the outcomes. And like this is a long game. Self-development is a
Yeah,
long game. It is the longest journey you will ever have in your whole entire life. But if you're not investing in yourself, and finding out what is actually working for you, what's not working for you, how do you like sit down with yourself, listen, really, listen to your thoughts, change the way that you see some things. If you're seeing it from a very bad place, bad space, Dwayne is on here, and Dwayne is hitting these.
I
I
know
mean,
he's killing it.
he is slaying it with these comments. He
That's
said,
it.
"You earn respect with your
Yeah.
ears, but you lose it with your mouth."
Yeah. Amen, Dwayne.
Yeah,
Amen.
and that's
Amen.
so true. Hey, there's another thing in here in this book. I just couldn't help myself because I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, this is my supervisor, talking to us about these different lessons. So okay, so now we're in transition, right?
Yeah.
We're all grown up, if you will,
Hmm.
in this space of doing our own thing, living out our purpose on
Hmm.
our own terms. And one of the lessons you talk about is the watch.
Oh, I couldn't wait. That was planned 3 years before I retired. Get rid of the. We are so beholden to inanimate things. Time is finite, right? And we can't get any
Hmm.
more of it. And it might be one of the things that are way high up on what we value the most. But the way you manage your time can physically ruin you. And what I
Yeah.
talk about with the watch is that when you have a watch on, right, and you look at it, if your watch tells you that you might be late or you're going to something of some level of responsibility has changed in your life by what time it is, it changes your physiology.
Hmm.
Your heart rate goes up. You might even break out into a little bit of a sweat. Your blood pressure goes up. You might even get a little nauseous, depending on what your watch says.
Hmm.
It is okay to have white space. Build it into your life. I'm looking at actually off to my right, not that I did this on purpose, but off to my right's my calendar for tomorrow. And I'm looking and I'm like, yep, I got a full morning and then I got a lot of white space. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna go, I ain't filling it up. I'm not doing it. I already gave myself a rule. I already told myself, I said, Dave, you were ordered to not fill your white space tomorrow. And I'm not going to do it because the work I have in the morning is the work that needs to be done that day. And I'm
Yep.
not going to fill it up. So yeah, you got to, I literally threw my watch away. Never again. Never again. Now my cell phone tells me what time it is. And if I need to know, I will click on it real quick and I'll know. So yes, I still have to manage my day to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but the watch is a figurative or a visual for
Yeah.
people to kind of get their head around because if you look at people, they will nervously look at their watch, especially
Oh
when
yeah.
things are,
Oh
and
yeah.
they do that, and it's a thing because it's regrounding you, right? It's telling you. Sometimes people look at their watch like, oh my god, is this thing over with?
It's like going to church sometimes. Like, how much longer is the pastor gonna be in that
It
sermon?
it
Wait a
just
minute.
when the sermon's good, church goes like this, and when the
Yeah.
sermon's bad, you're like, I got someplace I got to be. But yeah, I mean, it is, I think it's foundational to health. I guess if I went back again and started off with that airman and having that conversation, when people transition in life, when you manage your time differently when you're 25 and single. You manage your time differently
Yeah.
when you're 28 and married. You manage your time differently when you're 30 and you have kids. You do these things differently. And as you walk through these steps and these changes in your life, and you and I are working with people that are going through changes in their life, you have to get a new figurative watch in your life and
Yeah.
how you utilize that. And yes, you can go 1,000 miles an hour when you're 20, but if you want to be effective, respect yourself, be healthy, do that self leadership, teach thyself, put yourself in the right places so that you can grow these things that we talk about. That's how you have to manage your time.
Yeah.
So having a day on the calendar that is fully blocked and everything is touching and it's full, people get around. Think about when people meet when they meet. They say, "Hey, how you doing? Good. What are you up to?" And people want to go, "Oh, my next 2 weeks," and they give you the whole thing. And that is so satisfying to them to tell somebody that they are the busiest human being on the face of the planet. And I'm
Because
thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. What are you doing?
but just because we were again in the military, that's how they define success. How
Mhm.
busy are you? Okay. If you're not that busy, oh, you got 10 minutes to slide in a conversation in between two meetings, one that went for 2 hours, and the next one is going to go for 3 hours. You've got 10 minutes here to give me, something. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then that's what we do. We get all excited and we celebrate ourselves because we got so much done in a day. And I'm like you in retirement. And this is what Dwayne, brings up here, giving us our time to critically reflect. So in the morning, I have a routine. Okay. And I think that's important for all of us to have a routine, but it's in flow and ease. All right. There's nothing that I'm going to be jerked around and kind of like, well, I got to be over here and I got to be over there. And people normally don't hear from me until the next day. I'm not a big, text messaging, because this is my time to heal, to ground myself, to think about what I really want to do for the rest of my life, to get really focused. And if I don't create the time, and the good time for me is when my family is out, Dominique's at work and AJ's at school. I'm here by myself. I have about 2 or 3 hours to really just think about me and really focus on what is it I would like to do with my time. And I think that's important for all of us to get to a point in our lives when we start doing that.
Yeah. Professional athletes before a game,
yeah,
they sit down and they visualize the whole game in their head. Every play, where they're going to be, how they're going to throw, what are they going to do? And they do that. Why do they do that? Because it's a rep. You talked about feeling confident when you went out in the field and did whatever you needed to do.
Yeah.
But it was because of the repetitions that you put in ahead of time.
That's right. The reps.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we need to do those reps, but those reps need to be our reps.
Yeah.
Not somebody else's reps.
Yeah.
And so some things are intrusive. And oh, by the way, most powerful word in the world when you get to where we're at. And boy, if there's people that are younger, I see a lot of yeehaws and cookies giving us
these are mature and they seasoned audience.
So when we're out there, here's my biggest realization, and it has taken so much pressure off me, and I'd say my vital signs are better every day. Saying no. Because it took me forever to learn how to say no. And now when I go, I don't have time for that. You know what? People call back. They don't hate me. I don't go into some sin bin of, oh, that guy said no. And you know me, I'm a yes person. One of my things is to get to yes. We should always work to get to yes. But saying no is self-respect. When you say no, that's boundaries, right? Somebody wrote on here. I think
Cookie did.
About boundaries.
We have to establish boundaries that we honor for ourselves.
Yeah. The first time my therapist said to me, "You're out of bounds," and drew me a little picture on the thing, I thought, "Oh my goodness!" The picture looked painful. It made me feel bad because I was like, "I'm not respecting myself running around out there. Get back in bounds." And in bounds means no. Yeah. Yeah, Latricia, no is a complete sentence.
There is.
No dot.
No dot. And fast forward and keep moving. I just, we just need these friendly reminders at times that, and I, the whole comment that Dwayne put down with the life is finite. We got to prioritize our time and our activities. We really do. And it's a learn thing every day. Right? We learn. We may slip up, but we relearn it again, and that's okay. All right. But when you're working, okay, you're so now you Max Fab, okay, Max Fab Consulting, okay.
Yeah.
So first, tell the audience what Max Fab means.
Sure.
And where it came from.
A whole keynote speech in 60 seconds or less.
Yes.
So if you look behind me and you see the flag, that's the flag that flew over the trauma center in Balad, Iraq when I was the chief at the trauma center. And me being me, skills were still current, so I worked. But when I got there, I had 235 medics that I had to get mentally, physically, and emotionally through the whole thing and healthy. And knowing what I knew at that point in time, and that fear and pain drive a lot of things, I came down to two things. One was share some pain, and two was what is your attitude? Because it doesn't matter how bad it is, you can dig yourself out of a lot of holes with attitude, and it's the one thing we have full control over.
Yes, we do.
We have full control. And so when I got there, I chose push-ups as sharing pain because I absolutely hate push-ups. And we did a lot of push-ups. And when I started to do my rounds in the morning after stopping in the chaplain's office and getting a prayer on me, which was an amazing thing, that's a whole other part of the speech.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd stop in every single place and we would do push-ups. And I think I probably started with most people with 5, unless it was Army guys, and then they want to do 45.
Right.
But Army guys and gals, and I appreciated that too. But when I would stand up, they would say, and you understand this, they'd say, Chief, how are you doing? Now that is an innocuous, routine, ritualistic question that we say 1,000 times a day.
Yep.
But the answer that you give as a chief is a big deal. And I
Yep.
and I would say, I'm maximum fabulous. And everybody would go, what in the hell is that? And I would say it's the highest of the hierarchy on the attitudinal scale. And if we're not there, we're going to get there, and you're responsible for everybody else around you getting to max fab. And so we finished the tour. Commander says, "What do you want?" I told him. I said, "I want the flag out of Heroes Highway." Another whole explanation that goes along with that. That's an impossibility. That those things are in museums. But I told him I wanted that flag, and he said, "Not very many people have those, and we don't give them away." Well, what they did was they pulled it down, put my name and dates that I served there, and on the bottom of it, it says Maximum Fabulous. And so Max Fab, centered around, veteran transition, leadership for young people, and that some of the things that we're talking about became the name of the company. And it all came off of one keynote speech, and somebody grabbed me and said, "That's the name of the company." And I said, "You're right." And and so it does deserve a little bit of an explanation, but yeah, that's how we got where we were at, and we're on a tremendous journey of leading leaders to lead veterans and build the environment so that they are safe and they can be healthy and happy as they transition from the institution that they were in to the institution that they're going to, and have some of that be smooth, because right now it's a little wonky.
Yeah, it is a little wonky. And again, I don't know what the universe did, but I'm happy for it. I'm here for it because you're working in your sphere of influence. I'm working in my sphere of influence. And it's all it's like the same, it's just the same pathway, I guess. But we created a movement. You're creating a movement on your
Mhm.
end. I'm creating one on my end, and we're going to converge, and at some point, and then be able to impact and influence so many
Mhm.
people that are just there's so many people who think they're alone. They don't know where to go to. They don't want to go back into the military to get more, I don't know, help or resourcing. And so we're just the safety nets. We're the safety nets out here for folks that may need a person who gets it and understands it. And at the same time, want to see you succeed in this next life.
I think that when we first talked, when we kind of first reconnected, and
Yep.
you're writing a book, I'm writing a book. Look at the two of us, and we're kind of high fiving a little bit. The
Mm-hmm.
one, the one word when I hung up the phone, the one word that popped into my head to describe you. Are you ready for this?
No, what is it? I'm not ready, but what is it?
It was unselfish,
uh,
and our world is so full of selfishness, and it is really hard to get into an environment when you're building your life team or being around to find people that are genuinely unselfish. And so good on you, because that's what you're doing. And that's the home run that you hit every day. And that's why people want to talk to you, because they're going to get you. They're going to get a piece of you. They're going to get your time, and they're going to get your energy. And you want to do that, and you're glad to give it. And you don't got your hand out for thousands and thousands of dollars.
no. You just brought up some things in me, but one of those, I think, really from where I get it from is my dad. So he was the most unselfish person that I knew. And when you're able to take give back, pay it forward without asking for, gobs of money, because that's, sometimes has how people live in. But all I am truly wanting to do is to support, help, encourage, motivate, inspire others. And so if you say I'm on the right track, I believe you, because you are my hero. And
You're
so
winning.
some of the things that we talk about, and it's emotional, but at the same time, I'm absolutely truly blessed that I'm able to do this. I am truly one of the most happiest people on this earth, just to
Yeah.
be able to say, I got you.
Well, the earth is a better place with you in it doing what you're doing. I think you picked perfectly. You picked you and you did it better than a lot of us. So you keep on slaying. I'm walking through a silly sunglass store on Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and there's a
Oh yeah.
sign on the door, and it just says "Keep slaying" or something. And I take a picture of it and send it to you. I thought you were responsible for it, but
No.
somebody was no, that was good. Somebody was in the game.
It's a movement.
Right.
People send me stuff all the time and they're like, I immediately thought of you. They like sending to me rugs and mugs
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
mean just a whole nine. They go to these stores. I'm like, yeah, and I mean that's what we're doing. I mean,
that's
of
right.
course. Of course this is what we're doing. And of course Dwayne here says there is no limit to the amount of good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. And that's
Amen.
the quote by Ronald Reagan.
Amen.
So
That's right. Amen. I love it.
so, what are some lasting thoughts that you want to leave for our audience before we
Ooh.
slip on out of here?
Um, I always hold myself to walking my talk.
Yeah.
So I get an opportunity to talk to brand new nurses coming out of college, and
Mm-hmm.
I talk to them about veteran mental health, PTSD, and then nursing. Having been one of those. And so I've kind of just expanded this to everybody. So when I'm asked this question, at least lately, this is how I've answered it. No matter where you're at in life, if you stop and reground and do these three things immediately, you will be in a better place. I don't care if you're institutionalized as an alcoholic or you're on drugs or whatever. If you have enough to get this through your head and do these three things immediately, you'll be in a better place. Number one is get everything that's in front of you up to waist level. If you spend your life bent over at the waist, you are going to have a bad back, figurative and literal.
Mm.
The time to bring things up where you can work on them and focus on them. Get get your workbench in life at the right height. Number two is we can't do anything without a strong foundation, so you need to invest in that. Nurses, I talk to them about shoes and being on their feet all day. You understand that very well, Rochelle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But
do.
but in life, you have to invest in that foundation, and far too often we invest into the other things. Instead of buying a good pair of shoes, we buy a nice pair of earrings. Earrings aren't going to do much for you. The shoes, I know, I get it. But I also know in the morning you're running in a good pair of shoes. So
Yes, right.
your foundation is important, and that includes your life team. It includes having enough respect for yourself to have to manage your bills appropriately. All of those things. So foundationally, you're stable because when those little earthquakes happen in life, if your foundation isn't stable, you're going to crumble. So you got to get that done. And the third thing is we are what we consume, and that
Mm-hmm.
is mentally and physically. And what you put in your mouth affects how this works. So when I talk
Yep.
to nurses, I tell them things like stress management is not three glasses of wine after your shift,
Right.
right? Because they're going to be cloudy the next day and they have a responsibility to other people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about how you consume social media, how you consume things that people say, rock throwing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How that type of thing. So what you expose yourself to, what you let yourself consume, shapes you. So eat well and eat
Mm.
smart.
Mm. I look.
There you
I'm
go.
here for it. I'm here for it. I mean, we sat here for an hour and it's like 6 minutes clicking in.
Yeah.
And this content is, again, this is weight in gold. And I absolutely am so thankful that you said yes to
Oh,
coming on here to the show, please. But you know what? I mean, you could have been doing something else. So,
no, it's
I'm
not how it
grateful
works.
that you said yes and to take some time to sit here and talk a little bit through leadership, through mindset, through
Mm,
wellness, these three pillars that I continually talk through all of the different avenues that I'm reaching people. So, um, I know the audience has been here, y'all. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part, for being interactive, for bringing up comments, for supporting Slay to Success. If you have not subscribed, please do so again. I will put this back up so if you can scan the QR code. If you take some time to do that, there is some information that's going to be provided for you. But we're just all going to be here next week. We're going to be back here again. I got a new guest, of course. Dwayne put in the last comment: dogs don't chase parked cars, keep slaying. I love it. Dwayne's gonna have to be on the show too
Dwayne, I
because
know
I
what
just
Dwayne.
said
Giddy
Dwayne.
up,
Yeah,
Dwayne.
like
Wait,
he's
where's Dwayne's book of one-liners?
I don't
He's
know, but
written. He says, all right.
he's in the DMV area, and he's our LinkedIn. He's my LinkedIn post. New friend. And he is retired as well from the military. So
Semper Fi.
yeah, so I'm just saying,
Dwayne,
I
right
think that
on.
he should be a guest on the show. I will reach out to him
That's
because I am quite sure
yeah,
that he will have a lot to share as
yeah.
well and add value to Slate to
Yeah.
Success.
God bless Dwayne.
Yes, please. Yes, like we need you here. Um, so thank you so much for being here, everybody. Thank you for your comments again, for your attention. This has been the Slay to Success show with your queen and your host, Rochelle Hemingway. And we will see you back here next week we'll count the days out, right? I said 7, 8 on the 8th of October at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. Bye bye.